It is now Sunday night. We started running some of the electrical. Obviously we've gotten some more of the wall up. And this is coming around. And that one up there is because there's going to be a beer fridge here. And that'll get that way up and out of the way for the power cord. And that's for a neon clock. But ran into a little snafu. These little knockout couplers, once they're in there, they're a little close to the screws. So I got to rethink that. I might be grinding those knockouts down a little. I don't want to have a plug jiggle and hear a big loud pop. That doesn't sound like a lot of fun. But so the cars are back in. I wish they were clean. They're not. It got later faster than it should have. But we did get one more panel up since this afternoon. And then that box is now mounted. This box is mounted. That thermostat is now mounted. And the condensate drain is run about as nicely as it's going to be. It'll get loop straps on it once the rest of the wall's in. And we've decided that we're going to cut this board out right here so that we can wrap these corners, wrap here and wrap there as best we can, and then put a new, probably a 2x6 in there, and try to square it up a little bit. You know, it is what it is. And then there will be J channel running here, J channel running here, and then we'll probably let it run wild right there. But what we're going to do is run tin over to this, up to that board there, over to the heater, and everything south of that is going to be that bathroom wall stuff, you know, just because it's going to be easier to work with. And then we'll run the channel across, go around the top of the furnace, and probably run the corrugated back up to this point. So that box probably is an actual real box. We'll find out. We'll see what we think. And then these lights will actually be a surface box. It'll be right here. There'll be a box here with the fan lead going into it. And then on this side of the wall, there will be a box here with a copy of the fan lead running to it. And eventually, once I know where I want the fans, that's where the fan controllers will be. And then I'll just surface mount those in conduit to wherever I wind up putting the fans. You know, can't know everything. But until there's lifts, it's hard to know exactly where we want that. But well, we're working on it. And then Sid's garage door guy is going to come and save the day this week and drop these down. One, so I can get the openers I want on them. Two, he's going to move the shafts over to make it so we can get the openers. And three, by dropping it, I can put a little patch of tin in there and seal the building. If you recall, when we put the ceiling up, I had to notch some things temporarily until we could address it. But those springs are scary, and there's professionals who do that. There's, oh, and then I did empty and, you know, I shut off the valves to the loop. I shut off the valves running out, and then hooked up my pump, but then just let it drain. And it drained all the way down to about here on the Y strainer. Then I popped these guys off and sealed them with Rector seal. And so far, nothing. And that was, you know, like 5 hours ago. And then I've got a board sitting there. So if that gets wet, it's because this dripped. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. This time bleeding it was even easier. Got all the air bubbles out pretty quick. It's been very quiet. No more of those funky noises in the heater. So I'm happy there. You know, oh yeah, and starting to figure out where the boxes will be in here. Because I've been trying to keep just 8 boxes on any given branch as a maximum. So there will be 3 on that wall from branch 3. And the other 5 will be here from branch 3. Remembering that that one's the GFCI for that branch. The GFCI for branch 2, if you recall, is that one. So that's the first one in this leg. And it pops up here, comes around, it'll go up, and then I got the one for the clock, and then one for the fridge, and then one for this one's most likely going to be the blast cabinet over here. So I figured having 2 right there wouldn't be a bad thing. And then on this side, there'll be 4 along this wall, and then it'll go around the corner and there'll be another 4 over benches here. Yeah, it's moving along. We're slowly getting all the mess out of here. There's not anywhere near as much material left, but it really feels weird having, even though it's just a backside and there's no insulation in it yet, but even having a start to this wall, that's a peculiar feeling. It feels like we're actually accomplishing something, which means sometime in the next 2 weeks, I think we're gonna have to mount this door. I don't think we're gonna be able to guess close enough to get that J channel in. So that'll be fun. But yeah, it's starting to look like something. It's starting to work. It's nice and cozy in here. You know, it stays nice and warm. And we actually know what we're gonna do to solve that problem. And that makes me happy. And I got to drive my cars even though it was only for 10 minutes today. So you don't get to do that generally in December in Minnesota. So tomorrow is going to get cold and snowy. So I figured this weekend was all about getting to having the cars back in the garage. But you can see I've got quite a few branches working now. It's getting there, you know. And that one, I gotta work on that one soon. But let's figure out what this outlet issue is going to be, and maybe what it comes down to is I need to get a different brand of of conduit to rigid adapters, or maybe it even involves just maybe grinding a thread off of here, because it's close, you know, even with the tape on here. So if I pop it back in there, you can see, you know, that's going to be too close and I don't like it. So we'll see what we can do. Anyway, that's what I know. I'm going to splice some video from this morning onto this one. And what did I do? I worked on notching tin and how we mark the tin for the screw holes. So, okay, good night. Okay, thought I'd take a minute and explain how we're cutting and marking the steel. When you look at the steel, you'll notice this corner ends abruptly, and this side has a feather. That's the corner that's going to overlap. So this one's on the outside. It goes over the last panel's version of that. So always keep that in mind. We've always been keeping that to one side on a given wall. And then I do all my measurements from this dressed edge, because the jig we made, which is just some sawhorses with a bunch of 2x4 on it, the jig we made, we can then measure from this point right here when you're making a cut. So the next piece on this wall, you'll note, goes around an opening. Well, I happen to know that that opening is 13 3/4 over. So from this edge over to 13 3/4 and 33 high. So we go from the bottom edge to 33 high. One thing that we have as a known is I know where my nailing boards are. So we take the tape, run her down, and then for where we put the nailing boards on here, I know that I need to put a screw at 42.5. So you see I make a mark, and then I do it in this one, and then I've got a board that fits between the two things. So you slide the steel, put the board across, and you can make your 2 middle marks. So then we know roughly where we want the screws. So I've got mine at 42.5, 87.5, and 132.5. And then depending, because you know floors vary and your plans change, so once everything's up, we drop a tape from the middle of that panel up into its channel down to the bottom of the square trim and figure out, like in this case, this one needed to be 164 5/8. So you make your mark at 164 5/8, you put your board across, you score your pencil, and you don't have to be super exact. You do get some fudge factor, which is good because of the way you're measuring. And then I'm sure there's a lot of ways to do it, But I find that this diamond metal cutoff blade here has done a really fantastic job. Just take it nice and slow, light pressure. And I'm sure you've seen in the videos tons and tons of pieces of steel laying on the floor from cutoffs. Yeah, that's how we do that. And then everywhere there's a box, I always make sure there's a board behind it so that there's something to attach it to. So you'll note over here, we had, well, you know, plans, best laid plans. That pipe was supposed to be in the wall, and I didn't know the wall was going to get placed where it is, you know. And the plans, when I buried that 4 months ago, not the same. So anyway, made a kick out for that. But see where that GFCI for the heater circuit is. If I come around to the other side of the shop here, since there's no skin on this side, you'll be able to see it. And from this side, I'll add more. You know, I'll put my secure points here, but you'll see, I always put a board across. So sometimes, you know, just like over there, sometimes people comment on why is there a board hanging down low? Well, that's why, so that all those boxes can be screwed in solid. And then what we've been doing, and like for GFCIs, I use these deeper boxes, so I got a little more room. But for a standard socket, you know, we've been knocking this out, putting a bushing in, you know, slide it on the wire, put 2 screws in it, you know, and then it's solid. Makes it real easy. Maintenance will be simple. It's like this one's on here, but it's not screwed in because it's a long reach. But you can kind of see the way that goes. So then you square it up with the little level, you put a couple screws in there, and that is super solid. So we're slowly coming across on this wall. Got to redo the drain. You'll note heat's all off. You know, that circuit is off. But it's also pretty nice out. It's like 40 degrees out. So I'm not too worried about it right now. So yeah, Jeff had to go attend a memorial service for a friend of his. So when he comes back, we will slide this panel up. So while he's gone, I will do some cleanup in here. But while I was marking this panel to cut it, it dawned on me that I don't think we've actually shown how we're cutting them. So I'll come back in just a second with this panel cut. And don't forget your PPE. But here, this panel I just finished cutting. So you can see it's all cut along the edge, coming around. Now remember, all that gray dust, that's metal. You don't want to be breathing that. Okay, so see, this piece is now separate. And up at this end, and then, you know, I slid the metal back and forth, so you're always cutting near a support. So you can see where it fell back there. So this was pushed way up when I cut that. But yeah, so that's how the cut happens. Then we duck walk it into place, slide it up into the freeze up there, and then snap it onto the top of the ledge, get a couple screws in, and you know, it's usually close enough. You know, definitely not perfect. I'm sure if you had the patience and a third guy, you could get this a lot more level. But pretty happy with how this is coming along. So yeah, you can see we're starting to actually divide the rooms now. So there, I will post this as part of tonight's video.